A very good afternoon to everyone present here. I, Sheikh Ali, I'm going to be your host for today. Now, a lot of doctors tell us, especially when one of our loved ones are in the hospital, to always go encourage them, motivate them, and be there for them. And this is just because we need them to have a positive attitude, a positive mental health. Because no doubt, if you're internally happy, you're externally happy as well, and there are positive side effects. In the light of today's situation and the situation all around us, I present to you and I present to you a mental health event that is going to help you get more knowledge and gain more knowledge related to mental health, psychological disorders that are especially faced by students in today's world. And it will just help you de-stress and help you know more about how you can really differentiate between different disorders and do you really have a psychological problem. And this is also mainly for us to battle the stereotype that is always present around therapy and how people do not, some people at least, do not, encourage therapy. Instead, they say it's not a big thing. They say, it's fine, you can stay at home. It's okay, don't go for therapy. People will think you're crazy when that is not the truth because you need a positive mental health, no doubt, wherever you are. So I welcome Ms. Gunjan Kulkarni, our speaker for today, to shed us some light on this topic. Ms. Gunjan Kulkarni is a child and family psychologist with a master's degree in child psychology from Oxford, UK, and a 15 years diverse work experience in the field of child and family counseling in London, UK, as well as in India. She is currently practicing in Nasik in the field of child and family counseling, study skills workshops, life skills training for adolescents, effective parenting workshops, and much more. Ms. Gunjan Kulkarni is an active member of Mensa India and the British Psychological Society. I now hand over the platform to Ms. Kulkarni. Ma'am, you can take over.
Thank you. I hope I'm audible, clearly audible.
Ma'am, you are audible.
All right. Okay. A very good evening to all of you, and I really appreciate your enthusiasm of this young generation. Considering you are here sitting to learn something, even it is Sunday evening. So I really appreciate all of your enthusiasm. All right. First of all, we are going to now, today's topic is mainly about anxiety and depression and how can you help. All right. Why anxiety and depression? Because these two mental health disorders or these two psychological disorders are usually misinterpreted. Because anxiety, I mean, if you have a fear of something, if you feel really afraid of doing something, then you feel, I mean, there is a thin line between whether you have anxiety disorder or it is just a fear of doing something. Again, the same thing with depression. Feeling low is not depression. So this is sometimes very misleading or misinterpreted, and that's why we are going to talk more about this. And in the light of this pandemic, which the entire world is going through, uh, anxiety and depression are the most commonly found psychological disorders within the light of this pandemic, because you're really afraid of meeting people, you're really afraid of talking to them, you're really afraid of going to the public places. And on the other side, there are lost jobs, and then there is financial pressure, and that's why depression is also a very prominently seen psychological disorder these days. So that's why we are going to focus on these two. And considering all of you are students of pharmacy, students of science and clinical science, so it is important for you to know about this in to be able to help yourself, to be able to help in your profession, as well as to be able to help your friends and relatives. So that's why it is very important. All right. So we are going to cover the like causes and symptoms of anxiety and depression. Um, then basically what help is required, what kind of help is required in these two areas or these two psychological disorders, and most importantly, how can you help as a student, as a friend, as a professional, as a family member. How can you help? How can you help yourself as well as your family and relatives? So we'll begin. Okay, first of all, we'll briefly look into mental illness. So mental illness are basically health conditions which hamper our emotions, thinking, and behavior. Emotions, thinking, and behavior are quite interlinked to each other. So whatever hampers it, whatever disturbs the pattern of emotions, thinking, and behavior can be turned into a mental illness. So mental disorders are generally, there is a lot of history to mental illness in various areas of the world. Initially, it was looked at as a supernatural agents or witchcraft, or in these forms, mental illnesses were looked upon and then treated that way. But now it was for a long time, it was focused mainly on disorders or illness. Like if you call mental illness or mental health, then it is mainly to treat the illness. That's what always the perspective. So मेंटल लाइक बेसिकली साइकोलॉजिस्ट कोई है तो उनको कहा जाता है कि आप क्या बोलते क्रेजी लोगों के डॉक्टर्स हैं. So initially, when this topic was introduced, in the introduction, it was told that it is about crazy people. So but now there is a lot of awareness even in our country about mental health. So mental health is not just treating the illness; it is also being healthy in your daily life, being mentally healthy. So overall, mental health is important. Like it includes emotional, psychological, and social well-being also. This is the last statement is the definition of health given by WHO in 1948. So till 1948, mental and social well-being was not considered in the health category. So it was more of a physical health. It was more of physical illness, physical wellness. Mental health is also included in the definition of health, and which is very important. And it also says that it is not merely the absence of disease. It is also being healthy, being positive, being happy, being energetic and productive in your daily life. So that is very important, that it includes our entire health. Now we go to the part of anxiety. I have a patient who is diagnosed for social anxiety, and she is afraid of even talking to the shopkeepers. Whenever she goes to the shop, she's really afraid of even talking to them, even asking for whatever goodies she requires. So, and that time also she starts trembling, her heartbeats raise, and she feels palpitation, she feels sweaty palms. So this is diagnosed anxiety. It's not just fear of talking to people, or it's not just fear of something. So it's basically unease. So when you look at the definition of anxiety, it's mainly feeling of unease, or such as worry or fear, and that can be mild or severe. So it is every mental illness can be mild or severe. So I remember when I was studying psychopathology, when I was studying about mental illness long back. So that time, when you read the symptoms of each and every psychological disorder, you start feeling like you are one of them. It's and so that's why it's basically there is a very thin line between what is unease, or what is disturbance, or what is mental disturbance, and what is mental disorder. So that's why it is very important to look at the intensity of it. So anxiety, there is general anxiety, there is panic disorders, there are phobias and post-traumatic stress disorders, social anxiety. All this comes under anxiety, anxiety psychological disorder. So as I told you, it is not just like अगर कोई किसी को cockroach का डर लगता है तो that is not anxiety, right? It is fear. So but that's why it is very important कि उसका intensity क्या है, what is the intensity of it, what is the frequency of it, and what is the duration of it. So that tells you whether it is disorder or it is just a disturbance or it is just a difficulty. All right, so let's just look at the causes of why anxiety occurs. Basically, I mean, there is overactivity in the brain part which is involved more into emotions and behavior. So if there is a lot of activity into that brain part, then it leads to anxiety. For example, if I'm sitting here and thinking about अभी कोरोना आया है, if I get COVID-19, what will happen? What will happen to my family? Will my oxygen level drop? If I have to be admitted, will I get the bed? If I get the bed, do I require ventilation? If I require ventilation, then will the bed with ventilation be available for it? If I go through the medication, or if I go through the hospitalization, will I come back to my family? What will happen if I don't come back from this disease? What will happen to my family behind my back? So these are the anxiety. Now you can see that one thought led to another, and all these thoughts, the chain of thought is leading me towards being anxious. And the people diagnosed with anxiety, they are thinking about such things, such chain of thoughts constantly in their head. It's very rare that they are not thinking about such thoughts, such anxious or worrisome thoughts. It's very rare. So that's why it is important how intently they are feeling and how frequently they are thinking about these thoughts. Again, imbalance of chemicals like serotonin. It also leads to anxiety in some cases, especially the chemicals which regulate your mood, or which regulate or control your mood. Those imbalance can cause anxiety. Sometimes it is genetic makeup also, heredity also. Some stressful or traumatic experiences, like for example, children who have seen domestic abuse in their families, or children who have been bullied as a child. There is a possibility that they develop anxiety later in their life. So if it is not treated well at the right time, then there is a possibility that they develop anxiety. If there are like painful long-term conditions, like for example, if a person is going through a cancer treatment, if they go through a cancer treatment, they come back, and then again if there is a relapse, so they are like ill for a long time. So that can also cause some anxiety, that when will this end? And then the thoughts of negative thought chain again starts. So that's why it is very important that patients with physical illness, or with some disorders like physical disorders, they also need to be treated by psychologists sometimes, because there is a possibility that they develop psychological disorders alongside. Alcohol and drug abuse is also a very important or very prominent cause of anxiety. So these are the causes. Let's just look at the symptoms of anxiety. Now there are mental, physical, and social. All the symptoms together are present in anxiety disorder as well as in clinical depression, because it is all interlinked. When you are mentally ill, when you are when you are not able to function properly mentally, then it affects on your physical illness. In the last slide, as we saw, that if there is a prolonged a physical illness, then that can also cause to anxiety. The same way, if you are going through a mental illness, it can also have an effect on your physical health. So and of course it hampers your social interaction, especially anxiety as well as depression, but these two particularly hamper your social interaction to quite a lot of extent. There are dizziness, tiredness, kind of physical symptoms, muscle aches, tension in muscle, or sometimes you might have seen some people like they clench their fists or they clench their jaws. So there is a possibility that they are going through anxiety. Again, I'm saying that these symptoms doesn't really directly are related to I mean, you cannot just diagnose anxiety with these symptoms, but these symptoms are just for you to identify what is anxiety. Headaches, stomach aches, short of breath. As I gave an example of my patient, she always feels the short of breath. She always feels like she's choking only when she has to meet people, and only when she has to talk to people and just interact with them casually. Even if that is even if that it is a simple kind of interaction, even if it is a small talk, it is difficult for her to do that because of her anxiety diagnosis. Pins and needles, like numbness or like pricking sensation in your body. Insomnia is a very prominent symptom of anxiety. You can, I mean, it is very obvious that if you're constantly thinking about something, if you're constantly worrying about something, afraid of something, then it is going to directly affect on your sleep. So insomnia is another reason. And then if you are insomnic, it is your body is not well rested, your brain is not well rested, and then anxiety increases. So it has this rolling effect. Restlessness, feeling of dread. They constantly feel on the edge. I don't know whether you have come across such people. They are constantly on the edge. अरे ऐसा हुआ तो क्या होगा? ये हुआ तो क्या होगा? I don't think it can happen. It is it is impossible to do this. So these kind of statements are very common. So they constantly feel that they are on the edge. They constantly feel that they are watched or they are judged by people. They have a difficulty concentrating because their brain is constantly working into unproductive thoughts. They are always thinking about thoughts which are out of their control. So this is another very important thing. All of our brains are constantly thinking anyway. However, we think in a manner of concluding something. We think in a manner of finding solution to something or solving problems. But these people normally think into the pattern where they don't have any solutions. They think about the things which are not in their control, and that's why they feel more anxious, because then they don't find any ways out of it. They cannot do anything about it, and that's why they feel more and more anxious. They have fear of talking to people, as I told you. So that's why they avoid mixing with people. They don't like to mix with people. They don't like to go for social gatherings. And they are always afraid of being judged. Even if they are in a public space, they feel like people are looking at them, people are talking to them, are talking about them, people are judging how they are looking, how they are dressed up, and how like every small thing. So they just keep thinking that people are judging you. Whereas people really don't have that much time to judge you or to talk about you all the time. So, but this is the fear that is created by their mind, their own mind, and that's why they are constantly feeling that way. Now, you might have friends who are introverted or who have a personality that they don't like to talk much. They don't like to meet people. But that is completely different. So that cannot be that doesn't come under the anxiety part of it, right? So again, as I'm telling you, frequency, duration, and intensity is very important. All right. Now we're going to look at the depression part of it. Depression, clinical depression. Now I have, we usually the word depression is used, but clinical depression, I have clearly used clinical depression because depression term is overused these days. People use it like for anything. I was working with a student and he was telling me, ma'am, that day my result came and I was depressed the whole day. And then when I spoke to my dad, I felt better. So I had to correct him that, sweetheart, you are saying that you were feeling low, you were feeling upset. It's not depression. So because depression is a very serious and severe condition, which again is related to how intently, how frequently, and to what duration you're facing it. It's more than simply feeling unhappy or fed up, because these days we are going through this corona pandemic, and then we are going through this lockdowns one after another, and then a lot of things we are facing. And there are days when we feel low, there are days when we feel that I don't want to do anything, I don't want to आज कुछ नहीं करना है, पढ़ाई भी नहीं करना है, मूड ही नहीं है. These kind of things we feel, but then we feel it for a couple of days, 2-3 days, and then we get something to motivate ourselves, and then we meet people, we talk to them, we get out of it, we tell ourselves that no, I have to do this, I have to complete this assignment, and that's how we can come out of it. So that is not a depression, that is like just feeling unhappy and upset. So even in media, depression is a very overused term, and we as students of pharmacy, you have to understand that depression is not just feeling low. It is more serious than that. Basically, depression is people with clinical depression, they feel constantly depressed, they feel constantly sad, and it is for weeks and months together. Again, there is a hierarchy, there is a level of mild, moderate, and severe depression. So in mild depression, it is possible, mild and moderate depression, to some extent, it is possible to treat it with counseling and therapy. However, severe depression has to be treated with medication. So it's again how long you are feeling it, how intently and how severely you are feeling it. So normally it is again, we can see in like in our society especially, where if somebody is feeling low, or if somebody is feeling they are showing the signs of depression, they are told that don't worry, you will come out of it, you will just snap out of it, you just pull yourself together and do this and do that, just come with us, we'll go for a party, we'll have some drinks, and then you will feel better. So this is so basically that's why, because depression term is overused in media, in our in everywhere, so it is possible that we feel that it's not that much, it's nothing, it can be treated, it can be people can come out of it very easily. Some people can, but then if it is like at a milder level, then people can definitely come out of it with the help of their friends and family. However, if they are suffering through moderate and severe depression, then they require professional help for sure. So again, as students of science, it is very important for you to know that we have to very carefully use this term depression. Okay, so we'll look at a few causes of it. Some upsetting or stressful life events. Like for example, if there is a death in our family, or the breakup or divorce or illness, redundancy from the job, financial worry, which are the things, most of these things we are facing in this corona pandemic. People are losing their family members to corona, to COVID-19. Then financial problems are there, jobs, people are losing their jobs, and then there is a financial problems. Then people cannot continue their businesses, and this is causing a lot of economic change. So that's why there is a possibility. That's why probably there is an increase in depression in current situation. Now this is a very interesting concept where different causes come together, they combine together, and people feel depressed. For example, if a family loses, or if somebody loses their family member due to COVID-19, and at the same time they have lost their job. At the same time, they have to pay for their hospitalization of that person who they lost. So it is kind of a two three uh, two three causes together, combined together, to cause clinical depression. So that's why there is a rise in patients with depression. It's a downward spiral of events. For example, if a person is feeling depressed, or if a person is depressed, then they reduce meeting people. They don't meet people. They avoid it, and uh, because they are lonely, they turn to alcohol or drug abuse. So it's a series of things, and then because of drug abuse, alcohol abuse, substance abuse, their depression increases, right? So it's kind of a downward spiral. So once you are going down into the causes, you keep going down, and then the severity of your depressive symptoms increase. um, it is, in some researches it is seen that people who have like difficult social and economic circumstances, they are more prone to feeling depressed, and people who are older in age, because in old age there are difficulties like physical disorders, कुछ BP है, heart trouble है, and then there are possibilities that you feel lonely. So it causes depression. Certain personality traits. For example, some people already have low self-esteem. Some people already are anxious to meet people, right? And then it's difficult for them to meet people. It's difficult for them to join like family gatherings or social gatherings, and then they feel alone. And because they feel alone, they probably start feeling low, and then it could lead to depression. There is a family history of depression. In some families, it can genetically some people are genetically prone to be depressed. Postnatal depression is also a very important, or it's also a very important cause basically of depression. Like and then there are that time there are hormonal changes also. So ladies who give birth, they feel really sometimes there is a possibility that they feel depressed, and they are unable to take care of their newborn. Substance abuse, as I told you, is a very again a very important cause of depression. Right, we'll just look at the symptoms of it now. Again, like anxiety, it also has mental, physical, and social symptoms. Again, as I told you, continuously low mood. So a very important part of it is continuously low mood. It's not just feeling low for 1 or 2 days. It is continuous sadness, feeling of hopelessness or helplessness. Sometimes we see some of our friends or family members, or even sometimes we feel that कुछ रखा नहीं है, we just don't want to, I just don't want to do anything. What is the use of doing something? What is the use of being hopeful about certain things? So the feeling of hopelessness or helplessness also is a biggest symptoms of clinical depression. These people have low self-esteem. They are very constantly tearful. I'm just telling these symptoms to you more in more detail, because then you can just identify these symptoms in your near and dear ones. All right, so they are constantly tearful. I mean, again, some of these symptoms may not be seen very clearly or very I mean, अगर कोई डिप्रेशन में है तो वो हर बार रोते ही रहेगा. That is not, it's not like 1 and 1 so 1 plus 1 is equal to 2 kind of phenomena, but sometimes they are tearful, and you can see that even if you say something to them, even if you try to talk to them, even if you try to understand them, they feel tearful or they start to cry. They're always guilt ridden. There is a lot of guilt into them. Probably I'm not worth being a good son or daughter. I'm not worth being a good student, or I will not be able to be a good professional. These kind of thoughts are always seen in people with depression. They are irritable and intolerant of others. So sometimes, even if you try to reach out, they would repel you. They would say, no, I don't want help. Right? So this is again a very tricky situation for all of us as caregivers or as helpers. Right? They don't have motivation and interest in things. Now this is a very clear symptom. It can be seen very clearly. People who are suffering from depression, they lose interest in their own hobbies. For example, अगर किसी को बैडमिंटन खेलना बहुत पसंद था, I mean, any time that person would jump out and will be ready for a match, that person will not, that person, if the person is suffering from depression, he may not even look at his badminton kit for a long time. So even if they, I mean, their own hobbies, their own interests, they show very low motivation too. They have difficulty in making decisions. So this is also now you are all the students, and then you are in the process of making career, making the decisions of regarding your career, whether to go for post graduation, whether to start something, whether to join some research institute. So these kind of decisions, which are anyways very difficult, but people suffering from depression, they have these decision making. It hampers their decision making power. They don't enjoy life. They don't feel like they want to enjoy life. As I earlier told you, that even if a person is suffering from depression, and if you tell that person, "Chal hum party ke liye jate hain, have a couple of drinks, we just spend time together, we just talk to each other, we just spend time with our friends, and you will be better," that person would not be very willing to do that. They may do it for you, or just because you're saying, but they may not enjoy it. You can see it very visibly. Right? They normally move or speak very slowly. So that is also a very classic example, as classic symptom. They are not very energetic. Changes in appetite and mostly it is low, but it is they have certain aches or pains which are unexplainable. Like there is no physical physical reason to it. So again, as I said, lack of energy. They have low sex drive. So anything that they can, they have, like they have lost their enjoyment of life, right? In case of women, changes in menstrual cycle, like even the cycle is regular, because of clinical depression, there are certain changes, like drastic changes in the menstrual cycle also, disturbed sleep, the sleep. Now this is a very important symptom, suicidal thoughts or self-harm. It is very important to look at these, like identify this particular symptom, because people may not directly say, I want to take my life, or I don't want to live. They will not say it directly. They'll probably show the helplessness, or they probably show that they don't have a hope for future. They sometimes say that सब कुछ छोड़ के कहीं जाने का मन करता है. I do, or they start giving, like they start probably giving out their favorite things, like this is for you, and this particular thing is I want to give it to my mother. So these are kind of identification clues where they are probably thinking not very energetically, not very hopefully about life. So these are very important triggers, and if you see such triggers in anyone, or if you yourself feel such triggers, such thoughts, then this is the highest time you have to seek help. That time you have to seek professional help. So even if it is like, I'm just thinking about it, मैं कुछ करूँगा नहीं, या फिर I'll not do something, I'll not harm myself, I know that, but still that is probably the right time where you have to seek professional help, right? They start avoiding meeting people. आपका phone नहीं लेंगे, they will probably start saying नहीं यार busy था, मैं नहीं. That will happen probably more constantly, more frequently. Not taking part in social activities or gatherings. They start, as I told you, they start neglecting their hobbies and interests. And obviously, they have difficulties at home and work and family life. So these are the symptoms of clinical depression. And as I told you earlier, you will not see all these symptoms in everybody. Certain symptoms will be subtle, but this is very important to know these symptoms, right? To understand these symptoms or to find the triggers. Now we look at this particular path of help. Okay. Now probably I'm just giving you information about anxiety and depression and symptoms. Now I would like to explain why I told you the symptoms in a very detailed manner, because you can see this path where at the bottom there is community. Community is family, friends, relatives. That is community, right? So initially, when depression or anxiety symptoms are seen, or there is, yes,
Ma'am, your voice is cracking in between, ma'am.
Okay. Is it better now?
No, ma'am, it's cracking right now as well.
Is it better now?
Okay, yes, ma'am. Yes, it's better
It's
now.
still cracking. It's okay?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am, it's okay.
Right. So at the very bottom, or it's a very basic thing for anxiety and depression, or for any psychological illness for that matter, and community plays a very important role. So especially family and friends. So that's why we discuss these for two important reasons. We discuss these symptoms in detail. One reason is you are a part of it. You are a very important part of community. You are future citizens, like future adult citizens of our country, so or our society. So it is important that you need to know about mental health, mental illness, mental wellness. What are the symptoms, and what at what time, or at what particular level you have to seek help. You need to know. So that is one reason. Second reason is you are all of you are students of pharmacy, students of science. So that's why again it is very important for you to know these triggers, probably there is a possibility that you, with your knowledge, are more able to identify these symptoms in yourself and in your friends and family members. So that's why it is very important to learn and to understand all these symptoms of anxiety and depression. So again, as I said, community and community is a basic source of help. After that, when you realize that this person इससे सिर्फ बात करके he is not going to come out of it, then it is important to seek for psychological intervention and assessment. So at that time, it is very important to take that person or to insist that person to go for professional help, to meet a psychologist, so that their symptoms could be identified more properly and more precisely, and they can be assessed to see whether they are suffering from anxiety or clinical depression. So, and the third and very important part is like third level, we can say, is psychiatric support, where medicines are required, and at the same time medicines as well as psychotherapy is required for the patient. So in this particular okay, I would say that all of you guys are somewhere here. Can you see? You guys are somewhere here between community and psychological intervention, because you are you have a knowledge of pharmacy, you have knowledge of pathology, you are students of science, you have studied functioning of body and brain, and that's why you stand somewhere between community and psychological intervention. So your role is very important in identifying or helping people who may be suffering from emotional or psychological disorders. So just understand your role and try to find try to identify the symptoms. Now, with this, I would like to briefly speak about how can you help. First of all, as I told you, understanding the symptoms and identifying it very clearly, or trying to precisely identify it for how long this person is feeling this, and for what intensity this person is feeling it. So identifying that. Active listening. So ये बहुत important part है. When you are being a helper, or when you are trying to give care to someone, that time it is very important to be active listener. वो जो भी बोल रहे हैं, अगर if somebody is saying कि I feel like मुझे कहीं छोड़ के सब कुछ छोड़ के कहीं जाना है, I just sometimes feel like I don't want to live. अगर somebody is saying this to you, that time like right away telling them नहीं ऐसे कुछ नहीं, थोड़ी देर we feel it, ऐसा नहीं होता, you should not feel this. I mean, when you say you should not feel this, but that person is already feeling it, so you are kind of denying that person's emotions. So we have to be more listener, we have to be more active listeners. So if a person tells you that I feel like I want to I don't want to live, something like that, that time it is very important to know from them why they are feeling like that. Is there anything that has happened in their life? Is there anything that you can do? These kind of questions probably would be more helpful than कुछ नहीं यार आ जाएगा तुम्हारे से. So this particular feeling this particular response makes them feel more alone. They are already feeling that nobody understands me, and if we respond in such manner, then there is a possibility that they feel the same feeling again and more intently, that I'm alone, and can lead them to do something to themselves, like harm themselves. To there is a possibility that they do something about it. They act on it or act on their thoughts. Empathy is a very important word. You might have come across this. This is kind of as psychologists or as mental health professionals, we are taught this particular concept very like as a topmost concept, you can say, when we are talking to people. Empathizing is trying to fit into their shoes, trying to think from their perspective. If a person is feeling afraid of something, or if a person is feeling anxious about something, then feeling it from that person's perspective. This is probably a very different reason, but I still would like to share with you. If I'm, for example, if I'm doing a training workshop or like for certain duration, and currently in this pandemic situation where I have to do this online, and if one person is always late for that workshop, or that person is they don't respond, or they don't probably complete their assignment, at that time my first reaction would be to like to feel that they are not interested in it, or just to talk to them about like why are you not responding to it, why you are not interested in it, why I'm trying to teach it with a lot of enthusiasm, and why are you not paying attention. But at the same time, if I try to understand that person's location, where probably they have a genuine network issue, and then they have to probably go to some other place to get the like get the network, and to join the class, or to complete their assignments. So at that time, I am going to feel empathetic to that person. I'm going to understand that person's perspective, that even though they are facing such difficult situations, they are still interested, they are still trying to do whatever they can about this workshop, or they are participating. So at that time my perspective changes. That is empathy, right? So this is being empathetic. So when we are talking, when we are listening to somebody, when they are sharing their thoughts to us, rather than making fun of their thoughts, because these days even online social media trolling has become a very cool thing, kind of. So rather than looking at their feelings or their thoughts from a perspective of making fun, it's important to empathize with them. Clear communication is very important. Rather than shunning their thoughts, or clearly telling them that, boss, you need help. You right now you need help. Whatever you are thinking, just don't keep it to yourself. Seek for professional help, or trying to take them to a psychologist, or insisting or trying to contact some of their family members that this is what is shared by this person with me, and I think he needs professional help, so please seek some help. Right? And important is no labeling. We are not capable, or we are not professional enough to diagnose somebody uh, for depression or anxiety just on the basis of what they are thinking, just on the basis of what they are feeling. There are definite diagnostic tools which can be used, or psychometric assessments, psychological assessments can be done, and then the diagnosis happen. So labeling, we should definitely avoid labeling, even with psychological difficulty. And last but not the least, again, professional help is very important. So this is basically I wanted to tell you. So I again wanted to share this with you. Please try to understand your role. Your role is very important. Your role is not just community. Your role is not just family and friends. Your role is more important than that, because of your academic background, and because of your knowledge of certain pathological disorders or certain disorders. It gives you more responsibility towards the society, and towards your family members, and towards yourself, most importantly, right? Now I would like to take any questions if you have so far, because I realize that I'm speaking for I think last half an hour more than that. So I would like to take questions if you have any.
Yes, ma'am. Actually, we do have a lot of questions here, and it was a great insight related to anxiety and depression, and not just me. My family is sitting with me and actually listening to everything you had to say, ma'am. So we have a lot of not just questions, but confessions as well. Some people who are facing a few problems, they anonymously sent us messages. So for
Right.
the first one, uh, so
Should I stop sharing the screen now?
yes,
Or
ma'am.
you will see this slide where my phone number is there, and uh, I mean, as I told you that you need to seek professional help these days. It is also the professional help is also available online with other online courses and online teaching. Professional help is also available online, so you can contact psychologists, and they can help you. They can schedule sessions with you and help.
Okay, ma'am. Our first confession: I am not able to like myself. It is just
Mhm.
that all these memories come back to me being called ugly, dark, and whatnot, which leaves me with zero self worth and confidence. And I become too self conscious at times. What do I do?
Um, right. See, basically, this is again. It seems that you have suffered from bullying. Bullying is not just physical bullying or like physically hitting each other. Bullying can be like showing you down and saying names like you're ugly or these kind of things, and labeling you. So I think you have suffered from bullying. So in such case, it is very important to share it with someone. It is very important to talk to someone who will not be judgmental to you, who will listen to you very carefully with actively, and then rather than keeping these things to yourself, it is important to share it out and talk it out to someone. Also, as I told, a professional help available. I mean, if you are thinking that these kind of thoughts constantly are running in your mind, then it is important to seek professional help, because as I told at the time of anxiety, when I was explaining anxiety, one thought after another, there is a thought of a chain of thoughts which are really negative, one after another. You think negatively, and then you start feeling negative about yourself. So absolutely important is not keeping it to yourself, sharing it out, and talking to someone who will be able to help you and guide you through out.
Yes, ma'am. Next one. I have a lot of confusion and I overthink about the future, which always lands up in me having health issues.
Okay, right. Um, See, physical illness and mental illness are quite linked to each other. So there is a possibility that when you are feeling low, when you are not able to make decisions about your future, about your own career, or about future in general, like dunya ka kya hoga kind of future also. So that can lead to your feeling tensed, and then hypertension, and these could lead to your uh, physical illness. So if you are feeling unwell, physically unwell, it is very important to first of all seek help for this particular like physical illness, um, and understand why you are constantly feeling unwell, or why you are not feeling well. Again, I would suggest if you could do your blood test and like basic profile. Sometimes vitamin B12 and D3 also cause you feel confused or upset or low. So that would be probably that would be step one. So going for your profile done, then seeking for your physical health, doing the physical health checkup, and understanding what is the cause behind your constant illness. So when you're saying that I overthink, it is another important thing is just to jot down your thoughts. What do you think? What do you overthink about? So just jot down your thoughts, and then you can see a pattern into those thoughts. So if you wish to share these thoughts with somebody, you can share it with me also, and we'll try to find a pattern into it, so that we can work on the base of it, rather than just dealing with the thoughts. We can link to the base, we can link to the belief, uh, uh, and then we can treat that belief, and you will feel better, or you will start thinking positively, and you can rationally make decisions about your future.
Next one. Next one. I have seen a lot of teenagers facing breakups nowadays. This becomes a
Yes.
serious issue when it comes to a point that one person is much more serious than the other one. So the phase through which people go directly hampers the mental health, and the balance then just gets lost. This has been a problem of many people of the generation. What needs to be done to come up and fight against such situations?
Right. Um, First of all, I would say don't keep your relationships secret. At least from some people, like from the people whom you trust in your life. Yes, maybe those are your parents, or some teachers, or your elder siblings, or your cousins, or your friends who will not judge you. So just don't keep it secret from your from some of the family members, or some of the near and dear ones, so that they will be able to guide you at a certain point. Like this is I can see that this is where this is probably going wrong. Why this person, I feel that this person is probably taking disadvantage of you. And these are kind of preventive tools where you will see that you are not going at the downward territory in this relationship. That would be one thing. Very important to be like have a clear communication, understanding the clues. Sometimes in relationships you feel, probably sometimes you feel confused why this is happening to me, why I am always being proactive, and I am always trying to reach out to this person, and this person is not responding that much, or this person is being moody, or this person is responding when he or she wants. At that time, this is probably at that point you have to think whether this relationship is good for you. See, when you're in a relationship, um, it has to be helpful to both the people who are in that relationship. It has to be what I can say. Um, it has to boost your confidence. It has to help you develop. It is never like a relationship which is one person is very dominating, and the other person is submissive. These kind of relationships don't work. So just try to understand whether you are part of such relationships where you are even taking abuse just to be in the relationship with that person. This is you have to understand that trigger, and for you to understand this trigger, it is important to talk to someone. It is very natural to feel attracted to opposite gender, or feel attracted to someone at when you are a teenager. However, what you act upon it, what you do about it, is very important. So and that at that time it is important to talk to someone. And it is observed, and it is studied that people who don't get the kind of affection and respect at their home from their families, they are tend to seek it from other people. And then they to get that love, or to get that attention, they can go to any extent to be in that relationship. So just try to understand those triggers, and as the very important thing is talk to your near and dear one that this is happening in my life. Don't keep it secret. That I would suggest the teenagers mainly.
Yes, ma'am, that is very much true. Next one. As a coping mechanism, I tend to ignore the chaos around me to maintain my peace. But this has resulted in me being a little insensitive towards my family.
So you mean detached?
Ma'am, it says insensitive. So,
I think insensitive means probably you're not paying attention to your siblings. You're just trying to be like be on your own, and you're not bothered about what is happening around. All right. So the first thing is you are trying to avoid the chaos. Avoiding the chaos. What the very important thing is, whatever we try to avoid or whatever we try to push away from us, that bounces back with a strong force to us. So so it's important not to avoid it or not to push it away from you. It's important to deal with it. Important to find coping mechanism to it. For example, if you want to be alone for some time, if you want to do something on your own, and your family members are probably coming and talking to you and asking questions to you, and then there is a lot of chaos, or probably there are a lot of um, arguments and happening in the family, and then at that time it is probably important to be clear in your communication. Tell what you expect from your family members. So very clearly tell them that I don't like this kind of environment, or please don't argue when I'm studying, or these kind of things. So just be very clear rather than shunning it out, or rather than avoiding it completely, because we have to understand the fact that we have to be live with chaos. We have to and especially this corona pandemic had is teaching us that we have to live with chaos. So if we have to live with chaos, it is important to cope with it rather than to avoid it completely. And to cope with it, it is again, I would suggest to go for some professional help who will be able to sort it for you, who will be able to teach you certain coping mechanisms. And as you rightly use the word coping mechanism, but probably we can find some constructive coping mechanism rather than avoiding it altogether.
I have tried taking my life before whenever there were problems at home because I tend to run away from problems rather than face it. I felt nervous and anxiety during these times with a constant fear nagging my mind.
Um, you have tried to run away from the problems. Um,
By trying to bear, basically suicidal.
right. See, you are having these suicidal thoughts, and you're trying to you're saying that I cannot solve problems. I want to run away from problems, and that's why I have attempted taking my life. Okay, so um, first of all, you have to understand that this notion in your mind that I cannot solve problems is something that we need to deal with first, because you have put this label to yourself that I cannot solve problems. Maybe your family members, or maybe somebody who is very influential in your life, is always kept telling you that you are good for nothing, you're not able to solve problems, you cannot do this, or they have compared you with somebody else constantly, and that's why you're feeling that I am not able to solve problems. I would rather run away from the problems. So first of all, it is important to deal with this notion which is set in your mind. All right. So I would humbly request you, please seek help, because it is very very important. If you have already attempted something like that, then you don't need to um, cross on the on your life. You need to put a cross to the ability to the put the cross on the inability of solving problems or inability of finding solutions. So there is a solution, or there is something can be done about your ability. Something can be definitely done about your ability of solving problems, and taking your life is definitely not the solution for it. If you learn how to solve your problems, then that is a lifetime learning for you. And if you're still feeling, or if you're still thinking suicidal, if you're still having these kind of thoughts, then please seek help. It is very important. And I can assure you that something can be done about your ability of solving problems.
That is true, and I really hope whoever you are, you do seek help because you do need it. It is important.
Yes.
Next one. Everything
Yes.
is fine and going good these days, but there are several things which affect us from our past. Being a human, I sometimes feel very difficult to be happy on to be on the happy side of the coin when there are several issues on the back of our mind. I suffer from anxiety attacks, low self-esteem, and have developed a fear from everything, just like my major fear from darkness. I have been harassed by a closed one, and that affected me the most, leading to all the other stuff. Otherwise, I am a chill lad inviting friends for dinner. I would just appreciate a small advice on how to control our anxiety and get over PTSDs.
All right. See, there are a couple of things that you have said into this. First of all, you are saying that I cannot be always on the happy side of the coin. Who asked you to be always on the happy side of the coin? Feeling sad, feeling afraid, feeling anxious, feeling surprised, feeling angry are all the same important emotions and along with your happiness. So don't put a pressure on yourself to be constantly or always feel happy or always be on the happy side of the coin. That is the first thing I would request you to do. Accept all the emotions as your own emotions. Once you do that, then uh, if certain past experiences are still affecting your present, then uh, that can be definitely worked upon, right? So when we're thinking about a past experience, we are kind of reliving it emotionally. So we kind of go through the same emotions, same fear, same anger, uh, all together again when we are when you are emotionally experiencing the same incidents. So that's why it's important to deal with those emotions. That's why it is important to learn from that experience, even if it is grossly bad or grossly uh, very fearsome or very difficult experience for you. It is important to learn from it. It is important to get something out of it, and there is possibility. There is a definite possibility not to let that incidents affect you on your self today, in your present life. So first of all, accept all your emotions as they are. You are a human being, so you are going to feel all other emotions along with happiness. So accept it first of all. Those are also your emotions, and whatever if effect that past experience has on your present, it can definitely be worked upon. It can definitely be um, sorted in terms of what are my learnings. I can just carry the learnings ahead rather than carry the experience of that incident, emotional experience of that incident. For example, if I'm bullied in past, then my learning would be I would avoid meeting people who are bullies, or I would make myself fit to fight back, or I. So these are my learnings. So if I carry the experience emotionally with me, then it is going to affect me presently. If I carry on the learning with me, then I'm going to be more alert, and I'm going to be more vigilant. I'm going to be stronger in my presence.
I don't know if I'm on the right track of my life. I feel worried sometimes, but then I pick myself up and strive for more. I don't know how exactly depression feels like, but I know whenever I feel sad, it's all blue. I feel like I'm losing my friends and losing everything. I don't know what to do and how to cope with this.
In this particular thing, sweetheart, I need that I strongly recommend you to seek help, because I think you need help, because if you're feeling constantly, or if you're feeling sad frequently, or upset frequently, then it is important that you feel it is important that you seek help in this particular time of your life. Don't be afraid of going for help, or don't be afraid of meeting some professional who will be able to help you out of this. And you deserve to be confident. You deserve to be happy. You deserve to deal with all your emotions effectively.
What should we do when something repeatedly comes up in our mind which makes us feel low and quiet, unwilling to talk or do any activity? Despite being socially connected and having good friends, many thoughts gather up in my mind, but I am unable to share. Rather, I prefer to keep it within myself, and that keeps bothering me.
Sorry, can you repeat that for me?
Yes, ma'am, sure, ma'am. What should we do when something repeatedly comes up in our mind which makes us feel low and quite unwilling to talk or do any activity? Despite being socially connected and having good friends, many thoughts gather up in my mind, but I am unable to share. Rather, I prefer to keep it within myself, and that keeps bothering me.
It is going to bother you because you are keeping it to yourself. And if and I'm saying that it is you don't have to share it on social media, but you can share it with your trusted friends, or trusted near and dear ones, who will be able to help you. So when you keep your emotions or your thoughts which are bothering you inside, you suppress it, then and you don't process it, then it becomes a very it becomes like a bomb, or it is like you're suppressing some explosives in your mind. So instead of that, try to share it with someone. Again, as I said, don't share it with everybody, but try to share it with at least someone, and then and who will be able to help you out with this. And as I told in my presentation also, that depression could be mild, moderate, and severe. So even if you don't have all the symptoms, all of it, or it could be a start of it. So this is the right time you talk to someone rather than keeping it to yourself. Even if it is very gory thoughts, or even if it is like very upsetting thoughts, it's better to share it with someone. And normally we don't share our thoughts because we are afraid that will be judged, or will be labeled, or will be stand for something, or will be made fun of. So that's why it is important to share it with selected people or to share it with professionals who will never judge.
So the last confession, having a really weird childhood, then failing again and again at relationships has made me hold myself with a low self-esteem. I doubt myself in every decision I make and people's appreciation. And acknowledgement is something that become totally dependent on for appreciating my self-worth. How bad is this, and will professional help be useful to me?
Okay. See, you have analyzed yourself. You have put together the events of your life and then making conclusion out of it, which is a very good thing. However, professional help will definitely be useful to you because none of these incidences have none of these incidences directly affected you. Whatever you concluded out of these incidences, whatever thoughts or feelings you went through due to these incidences, that has affected you. That has made you what you are. That has affected your thoughts and feelings for today. So it's not the incidences directly, it's how you process those incidences in your mind, how you thought about it is has affected you. So it can definitely be worked upon. Those incidences can be again thought in a different line. The perspectives could be changed towards these incidences. And when once you change the perspective, your thoughts will change. Once your thoughts will change, your emotions will change about it. And once your emotions are changed, your actions will change about it. So it is like right now, if you're going into this negative circle of thoughts, emotions, and behavior, you we can somebody. If it is processed well, it can be broken and it can be taken into a positive cycle of thoughts, emotions, and actions, and it can definitely be surely be done through professional help.
Yes, ma'am. Coming to the end of this webinar, I would firstly like to thank Ms. Kulkarni for coming here, for taking out her time for us, and honestly telling us so much more about mental health, things we honestly did not know and things that confused us. Secondly, thank you to all the participants for trusting us and confiding in us your confessions. It really means a lot, and I hope all the others who are facing things in life do speak up. To those who did send your confessions, you speaking up here means it's a big step. It is a big step from your side, and that does mean that you can speak to someone for sure one day. Maybe not today, but one day you will speak to someone. And I hope all your problems and worries that you face will get solved. Lastly, thank you to everyone, the entire team of Mental Health, for helping and for organizing this event so beautifully. Thank you, ma'am. Really, thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much for coming here.
It was a very good experience sharing my thoughts with you, and basically even though it was confidentially shared, your informations helped me to feel that we are in an interactive session, and I am trying to help you out. I'm trying to work on I'm trying to give you some insight about your problems. So it was a very good idea to collect confessions from people and then discussing it on this platform. So it was really good interacting with all of you, and wish you all the best, and be mentally healthy and seek help whenever is required. Don't shy away from help. Help is helpful.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you, everyone, for coming here. Keep smiling and stay safe. Can leave now. You all may leave the meeting right now. Okay, something is going on.